Hey, what's up, guys? Today I want to answer a question that I got in the comments. It was something along the lines of, are there mistakes in the factory service manual, the OEM service manual, the ones that the mechanics at the dealership use? And the answer is yes, there are. Now, I could talk about service manuals for hours, so I'm going to try not to bore you, and I'm just want to get to a couple quick points. Now, even though there are occasionally mistakes in the service manual is going to be your best bet and your most accurate source of information for working on any car. I mean, they're the ones that made the car, right? So they know more about it. Only a couple times have I seen errors. One was when I was working at Honda. Another technician, he was doing a time and chain on, I think it was the Honda that's really not a Honda. It's like a Suzuki. I think it's a Honda Passport. It's like a SUV. I think it was like made by GM or Suzuki or something. But yeah, and they had the marks in the service manual like upside down. So when he followed the instructions, the the head the cam gears were actually out of phase. They were upside down, so it wouldn't start. And I remember hearing it, and he was like, "I think it's not getting fuel. I think it's not getting fuel." And I was like, "I think it's not getting compression." Like, so he did a compression test. He wasn't getting compression, and he figured out, that they were on upside down, and it was actually wrong in the manual. So what I would say is definitely follow what's in the manual first. And if it doesn't work and if it's just not working out, you're going to have to figure out what the problem is. See, as a mechanic, your job is to figure out what the problems are. You have to get down in the trenches. You're going to have to use your brain, and it's not always going to be spoon fed to you exactly what to do. That is why mechanics are some of the best problem solvers on the planet. Like, I guarantee you, if they were talking about sending people to Mars, and they want to send a doctor, they want to send a scientist, they should definitely send a mechanic, because we figure stuff out. Like, we know how to use tools. We're masters at using tools and figuring stuff out. So that's what you got to be. But filter everything first. Use the manual. Now, if you're just a do-it-yourselfer, and I know they have these Haynes and Chilton's manuals in AutoZone, like, that's going to be better than nothing. But I probably wouldn't waste my money on those if I were you, because they have multiple vehicles that they're servicing out of one manual, and they're really not that clear. Sometimes there are mistakes in those too. Those are probably, if you don't have anything else, you could look at that, but that's like the lowest. And then the middle level is like all data or subscription services. Those are good, and those are definitely pretty good. I have seen errors in those before too. Remember, I was working on a Ford Fusion, and I think it was I was doing a thermostat, and it's just the steps were, take this off, take this off, take this off, it'll come out. And I was doing that, and it wasn't coming out. I was like, I have to take this other thing off too in order to get it out. Also, once I was working on a Volkswagen, I think it was a no start, and I was trying to look through the electrical diagram, and there was a relay that I wanted to test, and in the electrical diagram, it had like 4 or 5 wires going to the relay. But in real life, I was looking at the actual relay, and it had like 7 wires. I was like, what are these other wires for? I'm thinking it was probably some type of security that they were running through there, but it wasn't in all data. I mean, I don't remember what happened if I was able to fix it. I don't even remember what happened with that, but I remember the wiring diagram being wrong. Also, for all data, sometimes like other systems are difficult to figure out what they're talking about. Like, I had to try to figure out if a blend door was opening on this. I think it was an Oldsmobile, and just the route, the pictures they had for the routing were very hard to understand, like what was going where, and like those, you know, it's just those type of systems that aren't like the main systems are sometimes hard to figure out from all data, like air suspension or things like that. So so yeah, all data is good. It's definitely better than nothing, better than Chilton's and Haynes, but it's still not the top level. The top level is the OEM manual. And look, I ordered one for my Camry. Ooh, look how big this thing is. And look, there's two of them. And this is volume 2. There's 3 volumes of this. So, oh my God, look at all that. This is crazy, but this is going to tell you like every single sensor. They have accurate diagrams and torque specs of where exactly everything is in your particular car. But, just like anything, the people that make those manuals are human beings. And I actually, I edited a service manual for Cummins when I was working there, when I was a service engineer, because I ended up designing a special service tool. Like, I'll tell you the story about that some other time, but I had to update where the old tool was, and I had to take out that and put in my tool. But yeah, I mean, you got to understand that when new cars come out, every model year, especially when there are changes, when you're at the actual company, that is a big deal. There are certain milestones and certain things that have to be met at certain times. And if you are an engineer who's working on something and you don't get done, like, you are going to be in trouble. So the people that make the manuals are under a lot of pressure to finish them when they're supposed to finish them at their certain milestones. And if it's not done, then they're going to get in trouble. They might get fired. So they're just going to say, oh, yeah, this is done. That's fine. And usually there's going to be a phone number in the manual to say, oh, if you find any errors in here, then call this number and we'll, update it. Because they feel like they have time because they can update the manual electronically. And, the dealership, most of the dealers, they are looking at that information on computers. So the updates go in, in real time, and they're not just going to print up a million other paper manuals, So yeah, that's one of the reasons why the OEM manual is not going to be 100% perfect. It's human beings doing it, human beings that are under pressure. And when I worked at another company, I'm not going to say the name of it to throw them under the bus, but they had a guy who was writing the manual. And, he was an older guy, and he knew, like, he was working there for a long time, so he knew his stuff. But he was under pressure because, like, those little diagrams that you see in those manuals, like, they're just, like, black and white with all, it's just like a drawing of where the part is. Those little drawings are very expensive, and the company that makes the manual, they usually contract somebody else to make those drawings. And those drawings are very expensive. So the guy I was talking about, he was in charge of making the manual, they wanted him to reuse the drawings from other stuff in this new product. And it made it confusing because the drawing wasn't accurate. Like, you'll be looking at the drawing and it'll be somewhat different from what you're looking at, So, like, he put a note in there. He's like, this may not match exactly what you have. And it wasn't his fault because they made him reuse the drawings from other stuff because the drawings are so expensive to get made. And ended up being an error that we found before the manual went out. Like, cause he retired. So they gave the job to another engineer, and he put, I think it was some type of special tool in there, but it was the wrong number. So we had like a whole meeting about it, and we had like 4 or 5 engineers, and I was one of them, to go down and try to just work through what's in the manual to make sure it matches what's happening in real life. And this is what doesn't happen a lot. These manuals, people are writing them on their desk and they're reusing old manuals, and then they're just updating what's new in the car and they're putting it together. But a lot of times they don't have time or money to go out and go through each little part of the manual to make sure that it's perfect. They figure that it's as perfect as it needs to be, and it could be updated later. So yeah, long story short, it was a whole bunch of engineers that went and tried to work through this manual with the pictures that were inaccurate, and we couldn't figure out anything. And I don't know, I used to get upset at the time, and I was like, why don't we just take a picture of what we're doing and we'll just put the picture in the manual, like the picture that you take with your phone. They were like, oh no, we can't do that because we were under contract to have this other company draw the pictures, and it was thousands of dollars for each picture. And I was so upset, but it wasn't anything I could do. People, they always think that, it's the engineers. The engineers, they do what they're told to do. It's upper management that tells them to do these things. If it were just up to the engineers, we would try to make this service manual as perfect as possible. I would anyway. But it's not like that in real life. But anyway, to sum it up, the OEM Service Manual is going to be your best bet if you're do-it-yourselfer. See if you can get one. I got mine off eBay. I got that volume 2 out of 3 for like $60. So you could just get them a little bit at a time. If you have a car that you really like, you want to keep for a while, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, just end up getting this factory service manual, and it'll definitely help you. It's not going to tell you everything. I'll tell you more about that in the future. But just to sum it up, it's going to be your best bet. Go with that until it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then you got to go into this service manual in your head and figure it out, because that's what we do. We figure out stuff. Anyway, thank you for tuning in, and have a good one.